Hi there. I know many of you are feeling upset, down about what's happened, but I want to tell you I have managed somehow. I feel pretty happy, and let me tell you why. Because I actually feel that we did win this. We actually did. Remember what happened in 2016? In 2016, we won. Donald Trump won. And remember, one of the things I said in my previous videos is that we've gained support, not lost it. So I was all set for a big win. And I actually think we did have a big win. I mean, we saw those rallies. We've had the walk-away movement. We've had so many Republicans who said they were voting for Trump this time that didn't vote for him before. I believe that we have uncovered massive voter fraud and massive psychological operations going on. Now that's my belief. You could dispute that. But let me just say one thing right now. The media does not call the election. It is incumbent on us to wait and let this play out. Remember when Al Gore finally conceded, it took 37 days after the election, not until in December. The next president, whether it be Donald Trump or Joe Biden, doesn't get inaugurated until January 20th. So I don't think we should accept these results until all of this litigation has played out. Just don't accept it. And don't watch programs that tell you to accept it. Don't go there. I'm not going there. I mean, I'm open to the possibility that we could lose, but that just means we have trouble with our court system. We have more trouble than we realize. It doesn't mean that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won fair and square. There's so much. I don't need to go into that. There are plenty of videos out there. There's so much fraud going on. So roughly half of us don't believe what has occurred. And they've been planning this a long time. I now see that a lot of puzzling things that happened have indicated that this planning was going on a long time. So one of the things that can be very upsetting, I think, is having a thought that conflicts with reality. And one thought is that this shouldn't happen. Like, let's say the thought that I had that we won this election fair and square, we had the votes, and we were cheated out of it. This should not happen. Well, what kind of world am I living in? I don't want to live in La La Land. This has exposed what we are up against. This has exposed what we're up against. Even with the media. I mean, we knew about the mainstream media, but why would we believe them? They carried on with the Russia hoax forever and ever, and then they fed this impeachment against Donald Trump. And remember, even after Donald Trump won, our side won in 2016, they constantly did everything possible. Remember those actors that got up and said, whoa, urging, all those ads urging electors to vote differently. Then they had a recount in some of the states, and it was just constant. It was constant. Disputing the results of the election. In my neighborhood, there were all these resist signs, and they were letting kids out of school to protest. So they've never accepted the results. So what did they do this time? The only reason we won in 2016 is they actually thought that there is no way that Donald Trump could win. So they didn't pull all their shenanigans. I mean, except the Russia collusion stuff. They didn't do that. But this time, they were prepared. And now there's a whole host of things that point to the planning behind this. I don't believe that they made up the COVID scare to do that, but they did see a huge opportunity once it came out, because that whole medical crowd is a different group that got this pandemic response going. I do think that part was planned, to overreact, shut down, do all the things that we're doing now. But I don't think the voters, the Democrats planned. But oh my God, what a perfect reason to have mail-in votes. Now, the reason I know that there's a tremendous amount of fraud is what's happened with some of the computer glitches. As somebody pointed out, glitches don't all go one way. That's not a glitch, that's planned. So this computer software was used everywhere. So there's that. There's the fact that they wouldn't let, in some of these very key states, they didn't let observers, Republican observers, in to monitor. And they even cheered, I think it was in Philadelphia, when they escorted them out. So they had a huge number of Democrats, and evil Democrats, because not all Democrats agree with cheating. They don't. I used to be a Democrat. They don't. But there is this sense, and this was part of the media, social media, almost like psychological operation, of painting Donald Trump. Remember, 94% of media coverage was negative, of painting him as this evil, evil person. And you listen to these people, and it's like, what planet are they living on? What has he done that's so evil when he's done so many things that are good? But you can't talk to them. You can't talk to them. Not the ones that believe that. They are so convinced. The propaganda has been so extreme, that he's worse than Hitler. So, if you were in a situation where you had to fight against Hitler, then cheating is okay. But we need to wait. Remember, the media does not decide. And so they're trying to get we good conservatives to accept that Joe Biden is the next president. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. And I won't listen to anybody that says, okay, I'm going to accept that Joe Biden won. No, not until the litigation has gone through, not until, and if the litigation goes through and we don't win, if some of this stuff isn't fixed, then that just tells me we have a lot of work to do. Don't give them the power. When we get depressed, when we crawl away, we are giving them the power. We have a lot of power. We have economic power. We can form groups. We need to fix the school system, the things that they're teaching kids. There's just a huge number of things we need to do. But meanwhile, I am 100% supporting our president in this effort. Let me just read you a couple tweets. I would like to point out that the results have not been certified officially. All reports of Joe Biden winning are media projections in an attempt to stop the coming story of the election, legal battle, and review. Here's another one, a new House Republican member, Lauren Boebert. The American people will have the final word. Well, actually, the judges and all the litigation, not the media. Here's another one from Tom Fitton. Thankfully, the Constitution does not give the media the ability to declare the winner of a presidential election. Remember, the media has been wrong many times in the past. You know, there's that famous, I wasn't born yet, but that famous picture, Dewey won in 1948 when Truman won, you know, was a headline. Now, they didn't have the kind of media that we have now, the varied media. There's so many media outlets now, but that was huge. They called Al Gore the winner, and he wasn't. So let's just wait. Here's Jenna Ellis. Media coordinated efforts are attempting to simply declare Joe Biden the president and ignore the rule of law. There is no official winner until every legal vote is counted accurately, the states certify results, and all legal challenges are resolved. And here's Dinesh D'Souza. If the Republican Party stands and fights together, this will send a clear message to the Supreme Court and the American people that this isn't just about Trump. It's about the legitimacy of this and every election going forward. It's about whether we are still a democracy. Come on, people, we know this is a war. You said it's going to be easy. So cry if you have to, but get over it. You have to come to terms with it. One of the things, I went through a lot this week, but actually not that long. And I identified this thought that this shouldn't be happening in this country. Well, how do we know that? It is happening in this country. There's been a lot of bad things that have happened in this country in the past. We somehow got through it. Clearly, on the Democratic side, there's been a huge amount of, now I know this more than ever, of election shenanigans going on. I mean, how is it that California, which used to be a conservative state, now has although we got more votes for Trump this time, but we're still a conservative state. How is it that it's become a total democratic state? Do you really think that there's that many liberals here? I don't. I mean, in pockets there are, but I don't see that. So now I'm wondering what's been going on there. So maybe this had to happen. Maybe this had to happen. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what your religious, philosophical, spiritual beliefs are. We don't know what needed to happen. We don't know. And we can't think of Trump, our President Trump, as a god, that he has somehow got some magic trick up his sleeve. So right now, I have no tolerance for criticism of President Trump. I have no tolerance. He should have done this, he should have done that. The Republicans should have done this, he should have done that. Stop it. We are working hard. People are working hard. And by golly, he worked really hard for us. So let me tell you what happened to me on Tuesday. I woke up in the morning and I was feeling great. A lot of us were. He's going to win this big. And I think we were onto something. So Jay, when you said there's going to be a landslide in Pennsylvania, I think you were absolutely right. There was a landslide, but you were cheated out of it because of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and all the shenanigans there. So we were feeling good. And so it's something that's kind of a tradition, only happened for the second time. My niece Jenna, who's in Georgia, and I, around, 5 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock her time, we were FaceTiming the results. And things were kind of looking good. We were toggling between One American News, Newsmax, and Fox. And I really did not like Fox. What was happening? I mean, Trump was doing very, very well. And they took so long to call Texas, to call Florida. And so finally, you know, it was very late for Jenna, and she had to go to work, do dental surgery, because she's a dentist in the Army. And we were kind of bummed out. But I was watching Bill Hemmer on Fox, and he was actually pretty good, because he was showing in the counties, and I thought, definitely Trump is going to win Wisconsin and Michigan. I mean, you really think all those people, after all those jobs came back to those places, and the trade deals that he's done, and the economic improvements in Michigan, do you really think he lost it this time after winning it before? I don't think so. And he was going down county through by county. Not to mention the whole fracking thing. I mean, come on. Anyway, he's going county through, and it was very clear Trump was going to win. But then it got late, and I went to bed. And I wake up in the morning, and of course you had all these ballots show up. Very suspicious, more than suspicious. It was out and out fraud. Out and out fraud. And what is going on that people can do that? Well, we're wondering the same thing when there's rioting and looting. How is it that people can riot and loot and not get arrested, not be thrown in jail for many years? How does that happen? How do we allow that to happen? There's so many things like that we've been questioning. So, anyway, let me just get back to my own personal reaction. I was just very depressed. I went to full depression mode on Wednesday. I thought there's no way I can go to the park and see one more effing mask or look at any of these people. I was just, I can't, I turned my phone off. I mean, I couldn't deal with talking to anybody. I actually went to bed a lot and I cried a lot. But what was motivating my crying was like, oh my God, don't people see what President Trump has done? How could they not vote for him? How could he lose? I was so sure he was going to win. And so I had to let that go through my system. I had to let that happen. And thank God. I'm really glad for my brain, because you can't control this. It's just how you work. Around 4 or 5 o'clock, I had a major shift. I thought, they cheated. He won. But they cheated. And that's different for me. Because my sadness came from thinking that people didn't vote for President Trump. Look, in my mind, you can argue with me if you want, but in my mind and my own assessment of this, he won big. We won big. And I can give you all the reasons, but I don't need to go into that, okay? We won big. Those rallies are huge. And that makes me feel good. There's a lot of us out there, and a lot of us that are seeing what's going on. The other side cheats. Now that means we have a lot of work to do. But let me go back to my own depression thing for a second, because I want to say something about that. I remember once I was watching a program about the Beach Boys. You know, when I was young, and David, and Diane, you all remember this. Beach Boys, and we always liked their music. These are my older brother and sister. Anyway, So Brian Wilson, who's the lead singer, he had depression for 6 months one time. And he was in bed and just could not get out of bed. Now that's a little hard for me to understand because I get restless if I'm in bed too long. It's like I would need to move. But for whatever reason, he'd stay in this darkened room. And after 6 months, he suddenly kind of snapped out of it. And so I pondered that, like, what happened after 6 months? Why did he snap out of it? And I thought, how am I different from Brian Wilson? Because I get like that occasionally, but it only lasts half a day. I don't ever remember depression like that lasting more than half a day. But while I'm in it, it's very hard to get out of it. You can't will yourself out of that. So how long do you stay depressed if you get depressed? Maybe for you it's 2 days. Maybe for you it's a week. Maybe for you it's 2 weeks. I feel very, very lucky that genetically or whatever, I think I have really good genes. I mean, all my siblings are still alive and healthy. We have that to thank from our parents. But how? I'm just lucky. After half a day, roughly, my brain switches gears and I literally have been happy since. I can't tell you to do that. You can't just snap. You can't just flip a switch. But remember, and this is another thing, because while I was depressed that half a day on Wednesday, I thought, how am I going to do my video? I don't want to spread my depression to other people. And maybe that helped because we need each other, okay? And Denise, my sister, my longtime conservative sister, wonderful sister, she sent a text the morning of November 3rd. And she said, I believe conservative America is rising up and shouting, enough. Well, Denise, I think that text is still very true. Very true as it was on November 3rd. Now, so I find now that I'm actually feeling happy, but I have a determination to fight this. So first, my first rule is I am not in any way, shape, or form going along with the media narrative. And in my mind, shame on any Republicans, shame on any YouTubers, shame on any place that does this, any media outlet kind of declaring Joe Biden the winner. I'm not doing it. I noticed that Newsmax and One American News, which I watch almost exclusively now, aren't either. And one of the things that really kind of bugged me was Fox News. I'm done with Fox News. I might occasionally watch Tucker Carlson, but it's very clear that they were told, do not say anything about voter fraud and get Trump supporters to accept the results of this election. So Wednesday I didn't watch any of them, but on, I think it was yesterday, anyway, I was watching, and both Jesse Waters, I didn't watch the 5, but I saw it on YouTube, and Laura Ingraham made a speech about that. And it's premature. And then Laura had some people on who were saying things along the side, along the lines that there's a lot of voter fraud, there's all this stuff, and she cut him off. Because it's very clear, and she cut him off in the same way that on Harrison Faulkner's show, I'm not sure what it's called, had cut off Newt Gingrich when he mentioned George Soros. So Melissa Francis cut him off. Like, we're not talking about George Francis. That was such a shock to a lot of people. But it was very clear they were following voices from the top. So I watched some orders from the top. I mean, Fox News is not run by people who support Trump, which that's kind of interesting to me, because they're going to lose their viewership. I mean, I see that all over Twitter. Don't watch them. There's One American News and there's Newsmax. They're much, much better. And if you really have a favorite show, but don't just watch it willy-nilly. They are terrible. They are terrible. And anybody show who talks about Biden being the president, not watching it. But I watched Tucker Carlson. And it was interesting because clearly he has a little bit more leeway because his show is so popular. So what he did is he had guests on who talked about election fraud, and he just nodded his head. So he couldn't say it, but he gave them, like when Ned Ryan, R-Y-A-U-N, spoke, he nodded his head like I agree, but he didn't say it himself. So they're in a tough situation. I think they should leave Fox. They should leave Fox. I don't know what Fox thinks it's going to do, because the left, they still think Fox is a right-wing place. And that all we conservatives watch it and get cultish beliefs. Oh my God, the projection is awesome. So they still think that we listen to it. So they're going to lose their markets. Many people say, I'm done with Fox. And we all need to do that. And so they're going to lose their conservative audience. And we're going to go to media outlets that reflect our views. So Fox is going to lose its base. Who do they think? They think the left is going to watch them? I don't think so. They are going to lose dramatically. These Murdoch kids, or whoever is, I think they're the ones that are managing. And they have just been bringing on more and more people and saying what they cannot say. And it's just so obvious, and I'm not supporting it. Now, as you know, that President Trump put out a statement today about how they're going to do all this litigation on Monday. And on one of the shows I was watching, they said it's clear that staff wrote this. And I know he went golfing. And I thought, look, let's cut President Trump some slack. He'll get his fighting spirit back. I mean, this guy has been through so much. There is a long battle, legal battle, PR battle, legal battle, everything. But he needs a break. Maybe he needs, like what I needed. So he needs to golf. Because think about what he did before the election. Think about all those rallies that he went to. I mean, it was just constant. 5 a day. Huge crowds. And he had to feel like, we're going to win. We're going to win. You know? Because he did win. So all his internal polling, everything, they knew they were going to win. But they didn't account for the fraud. I mean, he knew that was going to be a problem, clearly. And so I don't want to hear, oh, he should have known, he should have... Look, he's one person. He's shown us how to fight. And we need to stick with him until he concedes. Got that? Until he concedes. We need to stick with President Trump. And we need to say we're not going, until he concedes, I'm not conceding. and we shouldn't either. And there's a whole lot that we're going to need to do. Now, I can talk about this later, like if Biden, Harris become the president. I mean, the only thing that won't happen because we have the Senate is we want tax increases. But there's a lot, and let me repeat, there's a lot the president can do. And I don't even want to go there until we have to, okay? But any Republican that says, okay, we can do it, like I'm mad at Mitch McConnell. I don't know exactly what he said. He was just saying I could work with Joe Biden. But I noticed, Lindsey Graham, he got a lot of pushback. So I saw him on, it was either One American News or Newsmax just today, talking about, no, we're fighting this, da-da-da. Because he was at first like, well, you know, we can work with Joe Biden. And then he gave $500,000 to the Trump legal effort, the fund for that. We have a lot of power, people. We are the Republican Party, not the rhinos, not those others. So we can make it known. You don't support President Trump. If you don't support what we're doing here, you're done, okay? So you notice the smart Republicans are stepping up. You know, it's really interesting to me. The ones that are a tiny bit flaky were also the ones that I saw being flaky earlier. I'd mentioned to someone that I didn't like, I mean, initially I liked Dan Crenshaw in Texas, but then I didn't like it when he just added to the whole thing about George Floyd. He sent a tweet, like, just shut up, okay? Enough already. 6 funerals. I mean, I was just sick of it, okay? A criminal that was killed. But he doesn't deserve all this. So I thought, that is not good. And then he's talking about, oh, we can get along with the... It's like, no, he's gone, okay? Anybody that wants to run in 2024, okay, you have to have this Republican base. So people like Matt Gaetz, I mean, all these others are really doing well. They're fighting, and these are the ones we pay attention to. We give them the power, okay? And they know it. And we got to make that known. So there's a lot. I know we conservatives don't tend to join groups, don't do this. So we have to figure out how to do it. So maybe in your community, like Lindsay and stuff, you do it through your church, okay? You do it through your church about Christian values, about values of this country. You do it through your schools with kids. You figure out ways, you form groups, you join groups. I certainly will be giving more money to groups. There's a lot of individuals who are just working really hard, Candace Owen, others, the walkaway movement. None of that's ending, okay? We will fight. And by golly, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, because we still have a fight to go. But if Trump's out of office, you think he goes away? I don't know what he does, but he doesn't go away. He loves this country, and he has huge support, and will continue to have huge support. So they may they may end up regretting it, because when you're in office, you are somewhat constrained. You are not constrained out of office. You're not constrained. I mean, if he started a media channel, holy cow. All those other ones would be in big trouble. So let me, now that I know what they've been up to, I want to just mention something interesting about Joe Biden. And things that make sense now as I look back. So remember we were hearing about these kind of crazy plans like, what do you do if President Trump doesn't leave office? And I thought, what do you mean? You know, if he loses, of course he'll leave office. He believes in the Constitution more than anybody, right? So it's like, what are they doing? And I realize now they were going to cheat. Like, remember Nancy Pelosi? She had this like weird grin on her face, smile. She goes, we have many arrows in our quiver. Okay? Now I get it. They knew that this cheating was going to happen. And it might have even been in the software. There's been a lot of information. Again, I don't need to repeat all that. It's out there. Okay? And if you're interested, follow me on Twitter. Because one of the things I do is I retweet with comments, many things like this. I'm doing it all week. I've been doing it all week. But here's Joe Biden. Now, if you're going to be a liar, I remember reading this because I've been very interested in how the brain works. In order to be a liar, you actually have to have a very high intelligence. You have to have a really good brain. And the reason is, when you lie, you are holding two different thoughts in your mind, like what's the truth, the real truth, and what you're lying about. So, now in some cases, when Joe Biden would lie in the past, he actually would convince himself of the lie. Okay? So he would convince himself, I'm great thing, and so he would be the star of his own show. I mean, that's come out in the past. But now, he clearly is cognitively diminished. Clearly, okay? He has a hard time lying. So the natural tendency, given his brain glitches, is when he said something like, we have the biggest election fraud thing in place. I mean, he literally said that. It's on video. You can see it on YouTube. So you would think, oh, he meant to say anti-fraud in place. Yeah, but why would you even say that? Why would you say anti-fraud in place? The Democrats don't do that. They didn't have a big thing like that because they didn't have any indication that the Trump voters were going to cheat. I actually think he just said it. I mean, he did the same thing at the last debate. He's been saying over and over again, we're going to get rid of fossil fuels, we're going to stop fracking, blah, 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 because he's talked to all these climate crazies. So when Trump pushed him on it, he just launched into that mode. He couldn't hold the separate thought that said, no, you don't say it to a general population. Because he doesn't know how to lie anymore. Another thing he said, he actually said not too long, I don't need your vote. I mean, that's one of the reasons he didn't need to campaign. He was given an indication. That says to me, he was given an indication that we've got this for you. We have a plan in place. And he doesn't know. He's not smart enough not to say it. It all makes sense to me now. Because he's just not smart enough. So anyway, there's a lot of other things I came across, but you know, a sleeping giant has awakened. So Denise, David, Diane, all my friends out there, all of you that are concerned, I think it's more important than ever that I continue to do these videos. We're going to navigate our way through this. We're going to make our voices heard. And the way to do it is form groups. I mean, I did this in the late 1980s. I mean, I guess I was into identity politics because I wanted to get more women in office. And we formed groups. We formed a lot of groups. And we were active. This is far more important. I mean, I actually thought about that. I thought, wow, even when I was young, I was into identity politics. What was I trying to get implemented? I was trying to get more women in office. Hello? That was identity politics. It wasn't really to get any particular policies in place, but nonetheless, we form groups, and you're all working to a common cause. So we'll do it. It's natural when you've been hit to take a while, okay? And we don't even know who's going to be president. We really don't know. To me, this is a test of the court system and litigation. Because if we don't have a way, when there was such blatant fraud. And there's so many stories, so many people, and I actually think there'll be more people coming forward. So there was one place where I forgot who had it, but I just saw this. Well, the other side jammed it. They just jammed the line where you could report fraud. They are doing anything they can, anything they can. So we will figure out how to do this. Because there are a lot of individuals who saw stuff. And you know, here's another thing that's good about today. I was thinking about when I was younger, just getting in, politics, let's say in the 70s. Where did I get my information about politics? I got it from the newspaper, and I got it from the major networks, the news shows. And magazines. So there was Time magazine, later I remember I got in U.S. News and World Report. And that's how I learned about politics. That's how I figured out what was going on. I mean, what a dearth of information. I was completely dependent on that. Now, we have ways. And if one way gets particularly blocked, well, we'll find a way around it. We'll find a way around it. But we will not be silenced, okay? So, now, I understand you might not be there yet. You might be a person who has to be depressed for 2 weeks. I don't know. It's very hard. But remember, you are not alone, okay? You are not alone. We are in this together. There are so many of us. Half the country. Half the country. Okay? We're not going to give them that power. When you get depressed, just remind yourself, when you get depressed, okay, you are giving them the power. So I know a lot of you have religious faith. We don't know what the plan is. We don't know what's the right thing to happen. We think it's for Trump to win a second term, and I hope that it is. But if not, it means we've got to fix our judicial system. There's a lot we need to fix. I'm going to get a lot more politically active. There are people who are going to run for office. We need to get people on school boards. There's a lot we need to do, okay? And each of us will find what we can do, and we'll get other groups together. It can be done, people. We know what we need to do to save this country. Think of, oh my God, I just think about the people who died for this country, who fought and died. And they left us this wonderful legacy. And we need to fight for it, for their sake, for what they did for us, and also for future generations. Okay? The children growing up now, the future that they have. We have a job to do. This is a war, and we can win it. And it's probably an ongoing war. It's an ongoing war. So what this particular election has done is we have identified the problem. Okay? We know what we're up against. But don't forget, we won. So, I say that what can we do? One of the things is refuse to fall for their attempted demoralization. Do not watch programs or shows that say, oh, Biden's the president, we gotta get used to this. No, not yet. Don't do that. You'll just get depressed. Don't. I mean, they didn't. They get, that sounds like not my president. They did all that kind of stuff. And he had 94% mainstream media, left-wing media, I call it, negative press coverage. And what did they do? It's like a psychological operation. They made all these crazy people. They made them into crazy people. When they talk about President Trump, it's just amazing what they believe. But remember, they did that to Brett Kavanaugh. They took a nice, decent man of high moral value, and they got all these people thinking he's some kind of sex pervert. I mean, that woke me up big time. I mean, I was already a Republican, but I was so horrified at what they did there. And that's when I made it kind of got me doing YouTube videos. I had done one before, a little bit on climate change, but I was so upset, okay, that I made a video. And maybe some of you will make videos and talk about your feelings and what, because we need to communicate with each other. We'll find platforms, we'll do it, and it doesn't matter, we just need to do it. And remember another thing that they did. They ignored massive corruption. Like it just didn't even happen. Whether it be Hillary Clinton, whether it be Obamagate, spying on the Trump campaign, and then with Joe Biden, wow. Okay, I had written down some thoughts, but I've already said them. So, find a way within yourself to be strong. That's what I encourage you to do. And the reason, if you can't do it for yourself, do it for others. Because we need each other. We need each other. Okay? And it's the least we can do, too, for our President Trump. For all that he's done for us. Until he's ready to quit or concede, we're not going to do it, okay? And I'm happy. It's very strange, but I am happy, okay? It's not what I expected, but I know that we won this big. I know we did. Talk to you next week. Stay strong.